You're listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. Well, man, this is your boy Amaka. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Crusaders Podcast. And exciting indeed, because today we have the pleasure of hosting two remarkable talents in the world of graphic novels and comics, let me tell you, right? First up, we have a very versatile comic book author, graphic novelist, editor, a publishing consultant, and more. All right, known for engaging storytelling and unique artistic vision, this person has captivated readers with works like Americus and Science Comics, Wild Weather. Yep, this person is on deck right now. The one, the only, the uber talented MK Ring. How you doing?
Good.
You're like, oh my goodness, this is not wrestling. Don't get ready for a fight just yet, all right? Let me bring on your colleague, all right? All right, because joining us today, an award-winning cartoonist, illustrator, educator, and very impressive portfolio, includes collaborations with Fantastic Graphics and many other publishers, and of course with you in Americus and Wild Weather and Climate. Now, listen, obviously this new project is you guys reuniting, all right, with Budding Crisis, which is just recently debuted in January. Let me bring the uber talent to the one, the only, the amazing Jonathan. Hey, what up? How you doing?
Oh, I'm okay. You know, what's funny is I didn't realize we were going to be on camera and my water got shut off today while they work on it. So I haven't taken a shower. I haven't brushed my teeth. I mean, you're not going to get that sense over the
Thank goodness.
the internet.
It's not like
but
the cartoons, like was it Linus, the dirty one from the Charlie Brown, dust coming off of him?
Yeah, that's kind of what I am right now. You know, I didn't get to wash my hair.
Man, he
it's,
didn't get to wash it. He lost it today, folks. That medicine, you don't feed it. Listen, right. Like just yesterday, he had that Fabio look, and look at this morning.
That's what happens when I can't wash my hair.
All right, well, thanks for tuning in, folks, and thank you guys first of all for hanging out, because you guys got this 5-book, the ComiXology Originals is dropping. All right, a budding crisis, man. Yeah, you guys, it's some fun stuff. Like I was saying in the green room, it kind of took me back storytelling, because growing up, as a butterwheel laddie, it was Spanish language, but it was more of these type of adventure stories and stuff going on. It wasn't superhero that my uncle had laying around. These was kind of books from PR in Puerto Rico, and it was so different and not the superhero shit that I was accustomed to. So, and again, that was the luxury of being able to read two languages, right? So I was able to dig in and really appreciate the adventure side of it. And then reading this, there was a moment I said, yo, this feels so familiar. and, like, yo, good job, guys. I think you guys got something special here. But before we get into that, I'm going to start with Jonathan, since John popped off first. It showed up first over here. Not trying to diss you. Okay, you were kind of one time. So John, tell the folks that are unaware of you, where you're originally from, and the most important question in your life. What is the first thing in all of fandom that you personally ever fell in love with?
It's a long answer where I come from. My dad's company contracted with the Army when I was growing up, so we actually moved every 4 years. So I was born in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. We moved to Colorado. I spent most of middle school in Missouri, and then we went overseas. And so I spent the last part of middle school and then high school in Kuwait. And so that's the answer for, I guess, where I'm from. And I went to college in Savannah and then moved out to Portland.
You're global. Your answer should be, I'm global.
I am global. I did so much traveling when I was a kid. Now I don't mind being a homebody, and just staying staying put a little bit.
Like,
But
please give me in one familiar place for a little while.
yeah, sorry. Yeah. I mean, but you get. I mean, when I was in Portland, I think because I was so used to moving every 4 years. When I was in Portland for 5 years, I was like, do I move now? Should I just get up and go somewhere? Because I was so used to moving, I didn't know what it meant to like stay in a place. But first thing I fell in love with, probably like Calvin and Hobbes and the Far Side and the newspaper.
Okay, that's cool.
Those were the I think those were the I don't know if it was, I don't know, fandom's a weird word. I just fell in love with them, and I think that they was just obsessed with them, which I
Yeah,
guess is
it's
fandom, right?
love.
Like, yeah,
Again, it's
love,
something you
yeah,
found, and it got you, it piqued your interest. You're like, what is
yeah,
this? I really dig this for whatever reason. I dig it, and that's awesome. Again, I also I love the Sunday funnies because they were in color and being able to read, and they were longer stories. So I always look forward to that. I hit mom and dad when I had to pick up the paper. No problem. Here's the news. I got this. I had the cartoons and fuck around. All right. Anyway, with that, going to MK. Talk about your journey then. Where your OG from and your first love?
Oh, I grew up in New Jersey, and I did zero moving around.
So you just stayed in Jersey?
Huh?
You just stayed in Jersey? That's it? You still there?
No, I grew up and I left.
Okay.
I went out to Portland eventually. I was in the city for a while. I went to school in Syracuse, so I got around eventually, but I was just one place growing up. And then yeah, same as Jonathan. We just always had the comics in from the paper. No matter whose house we went to, they had the set from. I just heard the Star Ledger like just shut down.
Oh, I
like
saw that
this week, and like that's the paper we got. Like my grandparents always had, and I think we sometimes had it. We sometimes had. I'm blanking on the name, but one of the multiple newspapers that came out in that state at the time. And it was also always Calvin and Hobbes. Like other things were there, but I don't know. There's just such an amazing comic that I think my parents got us the collections of them, so we just like inhaled them all the time and reread them over and over again, and they were always just like they were always the most beautiful comic on the page.
Yeah. I agree. Again, I'm a fan. I think my boy Johnny Hughes would agree too. The Machine shout out from the UK. Now, continuing with you, as you grew up and started getting into your fandom, were you a lone wolf in that, or did you have a tribe of fellow geeks with you?
No.
Hell no. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Not I in like high school I did writing and like was in all like the school newspaper and the literary magazine, and I don't think I really connected with too many other people who were really into it until college. And then the school that I went to was Syracuse, and they had a daily newspaper every weekday at the time, and they ran a full page of comics. And my cousin was going up there, so we went to visit her my senior year of high school, and I saw the comics page, and I'm like, this might be a cool place to go. And at the time I was really into film, and I thought I was going to be a filmmaker. But I just got more into comics while I was there, and I met other people who were also into it. And Nick Perry, or Nick Gerwich, who does the Perry Bible Fellowship, was there at the same time. So we had a really cool indie comics crew, and we did a magazine there my senior year, and it was just a really isolated, cold, absolutely nothing to do outside because it was freezing atmosphere. So we just like stayed in and drew our comics, and like my friend like
the body warmth in the room because Jesus, it's cold outside.
Yeah, you couldn't walk anywhere, and you had to walk everywhere because we're college students, and nobody had a car there. One friend would drive me out to the comic book shop because he's like, "You would be willing to go there with me?" I'm like, "Yes, of course." So we
Hell
drive
yeah,
out every Wednesday, and
put me in the trunk if you have to. Damn it, go. Fuck yeah, I dig that. What about you, John? Did you have a tribe or you lone wolf?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Kind of like MK. I mean, I loved the comic strips as a kid, and but I never really um seriously got into to comics
Okay.
until I was in college. I never thought about like I would, I think we're all maybe around the same age and we're talking about old things as I also used to be able to pick up like an issue of Spider-Man at the grocery store if I was good. My dad
Yeah.
would be like, get a candy bar. And so that was sort of my extent. Um, and then I was in college, and I had to pick a major. I didn't know. I love to draw, but I didn't know what does that mean to then pick a major. Be like, what does a career look like? You know what I mean? Like, you're 18 and you're in college, and so I picked illustration because I'm like, okay, it's just drawing. Um, but I was like 2 years into the illustration program, and I hated it so much because it was this focus on like editorial illustration, and I kept thinking in terms of story and like narrative. And our friend who was my neighbor in college, Jason Rainey, he was taking comics classes, and I think at the time SCAD was one of the only handful of schools that actually taught comics classes.
Okay.
And he was like, man, you like telling stories, you like drawing, you should try comics. And I was like, my dad's gonna love that. That I'm gonna take some comics classes, but I'm like, they're already, I'm already going to art school. Like, what's the difference? So, but I took a comics class and I fell in love. And the thing about school is it's a built-in community, right? And so you gravitate towards people, and so this was in, you know, like the early 2000s, and it was I had never, since I hadn't really read comics and I wasn't interested in superhero stuff, it was all new to me. Jason introduced me to so many creators, so many artists. I think if you were to go back and look at
Yes.
all my projects when I was in college, you could tell what I was reading because I'd read an author, like I'd read a cartoonist's work, and then I just copy that work for my next project. You know what I mean? Because I was like,
Yeah.
just like it was this whole new world of like,
You're
oh,
eating it
comics.
up, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah, so it was, so yeah, so what's nice is that tribe that you get that helps you, kind of like MK, you're all learning it together, you're all growing together, you're pushing each other,
Dig it.
you're copying each other, yeah, it's a beautiful, I mean, without community, like, what do you have, man? Lone wolf. I can't imagine trying to do it lone wolf, man.
All right. So now I need to know here the story of what I love to call the promance over here. How did you? I'm gonna start with you, John. How did you meet MK? What's the story? And MK, say nothing. See if he's being truthful, because then I
Okay.
want to hear the
Well,
version.
I mean, I think there's a guy in town who Greg Means, who used to run Tugboat Press. He is kind of like the patron saint of comics in Portland because he just loves comics and he loves
So we
seeing
buy him
more
a robe and
comics.
all that. I put this guy with a beard, a robe, like yeah,
Oh, he has.
holding
I mean,
comics.
he kind of looks like a hobo. He's like old school. He's like old school Portland. You know what I
Instead of
mean?
a
Like,
hobo with a shotgun, is a hobo with comics.
no,
Gotcha.
just a hobo with a heart of gold and a
Uh,
blazer hat. But I think he had seen both of our work because he used to go to like every convention possible too. So I think he knew MK from going to, I don't know how well, he knew you and he knew me, and there was a project, and I think he was like, oh, maybe you two might like to work together because I think he saw something similar, and I think when he showed me MK's work, I was also kind of like, oh, there was like a similar vibe, I think, especially in terms of like characters, um, and he was like, hey, do you want to work with them on this project? And I was trying to work on my own book, and I just couldn't
yeah.
get it started, and so I was like, you know what, I had a lot of existential crisis about like working with a writer because I'd never done that before. And like, what does that mean? Does that mean that I haven't been able to write my own? But we ended up working on what was the first chapter of Americus, which actually was in his anthology called Paper Cutter, that was nominated for an Ignatz the year it came out for best story, and that ended up being what ended up being the book America. So I'll stop talking and I'll let MK fact check.
Wait. Before that, I'm pretty sure that now your nerves are no longer rattled because that your first project to get nominated like that. I mean, you must have been your mind blown, nerves over.
Oh yeah, no, it was very it was great. I mean, it was great to have that reception, right? Having be honored makes you feel a lot better about things. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you remember? I mean, was the story on the mark? What's going on?
Yeah.
All right, but what can you add to the story from your side?
My side, Greg and I met at SPX, the Small Press Expo in Bethesda, Maryland. 2003, 2000. I don't think either one of us actually remembers what year it is. But then, we both did a lot of conventions at the time, and he had just started up Paper Cutter. So at Mocha one year, he was like, "Hey, come meet me for breakfast, and we'll just like get a chance to hang out." And then he proposed doing. At the time, everything in Paper Cutter was like one short story and then like shorter backup stories, and he proposed doing maybe something a little bit longer that ran across a couple issues, and he was like, "Do you have anything that would be like fit this thing?" And I'm like, "Well, I have this one story, but it's like a 200-page book." And he's like, "Maybe not all of that." But then I told him what the story was, and it was about libraries. And the important thing to mention in this story is that Greg is a librarian.
Yes.
So he was like, "Well, I have to do this story." So we agreed to do.
Okay, what are you doing to me here?
I know how to pitch.
Yeah, great. Obviously, shit. Look what you came up with. Excellent.
And then we decided to just do the first issue in Paper Cutter, and he sent me ideas about artists, and I'd never heard of Jonathan before, but he's like, "Hey, check out these comics." And then there were like a couple on the website, and I ordered his minis, and they got there, and they really just meshed in a way that like they didn't take themselves too seriously. They weren't pretentious. They were really funny. They were really beautifully drawn in this like great thick brush style that I was just like, this is gonna be the guy. And I think once Jonathan agreed, like it was never a question of like who was at the top of the list from the start. And he agreed, and then it's been an awesome ride ever since.
I am loving the story. Excellent. So talk to me then about this world, and because you guys have done your work together. But what has brought you guys back together for what is this story that's out now on ComiXology, folks? Let me bring this up as well on stage. That way you guys can have a look too. I mean, it's out now. Original. Look at this cover, yo. I mean, I'm telling you, once I saw the cover, it gave me immediate old school adventure feel. I said, all right, I'm digging what's going on. Again, I'm also a Conan fan, so I like this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like you hitting a mark here, a good mark, and the way your storytelling is and the narrative, which they're gonna tell us in a moment, folks. Right? I mean, we're gonna talk about it. So tell us, all right, MK, since you say you know how to pitch. All right. Talk to me right now. What's the elevator pitch? If I came up to the booth right now and I picked up that first issue and I'm looking at it, and just to convince me, what would you say real quick? What is the story?
I would say in a world of where there's a magical seed that grants wishes, that plant is dead. It is going extinct and dying out, and there is a limited number of wishes left in the world. And the rest of the story is about how people in that world like respond to that news, what they decide to do with the little bit of magic that they have left, and just trying to do more of an old school, every issue self-contained adventure story that just explores that world.
Right. So talk about the world then, and the world building and creating a fantasy story that feels fresh and immersive, right? That's definitely not a small feat at all, especially nowadays. Yeah, it's a competitive market. Your story's got to pop off. So, what are some of the key elements that you knew had to be in place to keep Budding Crisis alive, and that you think fans are going to be attracted to?
Let's see. I'm trying to do each story a little bit differently and to give it each a little bit different of a tone. So the first one is a heist, and it sets up kind of the bad guys who are the country that's like, if magic's gonna run out, then maybe we can take over when it does, and are kind of waiting for like that point in time where so they're like building up their military, and they're kind of the villains that also get stolen from in the very beginning, and it goes in some different directions from there. There are a couple of people who wish to be immortal and have been around a long time and are kind of not quite pulling all the strings in the background, but have a vested interest in keeping things as they like them. So their second issue is about a couple of them too.
Oh, I like that. So, John, get into you from an artistic perspective. What were some of the biggest challenges, if any? Because again, you are an amazing artist. So to be
Thank
challenged,
you.
like, right? Me challenged? No. But jokes aside, like any challenges and like in creating and designing the world. I mean, how were these meetings like with MK and building this new world?
Yeah, no, I think yeah, there were challenges. I think one of the biggest challenges was, like my career is doing books for young readers. Like our first Americus was a YA graphic novel. Wild Weather was for middle readers. My first book that I wrote and drew, Odessa, was young adult, and my last book and my book coming out were for middle readers. So like I'm used to drawing in a more cartoony style, that is kind of built for that. And I think you can probably see some of the influence of those like Sunday comics and stuff in my work. But so I think for this, this being not for younger readers, trying to find like what's a visual style that will bring it to life, that will be removed from that a little bit. Not that that couldn't work, but I also think this was that my favorite thing was this was an opportunity for me to play and do something different. And I always, the way I draw in my sketchbook is very different from my final, like my books, and that it's very loose. It's just with a pen. It's very organic. There's not a straight line anywhere. And I thought that this would be a fun opportunity to be like, well, how could I try to bring some of that in? Because it's something, because we kind of have complete creative control over this project, which is like a big selling point of it, that I was like, oh, why not try to play? Because also, like when you're doing your job, you get hired to do that thing that you do. So I keep doing books for youth because I do them and I do them all right. And my books, people are enjoy it. But so this was fun because I was like, okay, well, this, like, you don't often have an opportunity to experiment, once you're doing a thing, because people just like, they want to see the thing. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I want to try to bring a little bit of a looseness to my line work. I want it to feel more organic and rougher and not get so caught up in things, to just kind of like play. And that's been like a big part, I think, of this project is, we're all having a lot of fun, MK and myself, and I think the colorist, Allie Drake. And so, but for building the world, I think my biggest thing was like, I love that MK puts it like Ren Fair fantasy. Like, you know, or it's got elves and dwarves, and it's all Eurocentric. My biggest thing was like, I want to make it not white. Like, I want to make it, you know, not like Eurocentric. I don't want it to
Yeah.
be like it looks in England or whatever. And so, you know, this was really great because you know, I grew up in the Middle East. I got to travel to other places in the Middle East. I got to travel around the Mediterranean. And so that's like, that exposure to that is such a big part of my like growing up and my adolescence. And it's never fit a project. And so this was kind of a perfect opportunity for me to be like, okay, well, maybe, you know, like this main city, I'm going to make it feel more Mediterranean, because it also made me think of like, if this is the city that has the seeds, the conservatory that has the seeds to this plant, it makes me think of those old cities that were sort of like the foundations of civilization. And, you know, like, how can I bring that sort of that mystery and that epic. I'm not trying to say that my work is epic. It feels weird, but just like I wanted that sense that
It is
that
epic,
you get
man.
with ancient history.
Kind of
I wanted
babe.
to bring it to it. Well, thank you. So those were some big influence. Those were sort of my biggest approaches, and also being kind of weird. I know we spent a lot of time. These are the Durrani you see on this page, and they have these, you know, they have these tonsure haircuts that monks have that look goofy, you
Yeah,
know.
man.
And so I was also like, how can we? And so, you know, the captain here, Optic, he has a mullet. So when you're a grunt soldier, you have the tonsure, but then when you get upgraded to a mullet. So I'm just like, you know, I was like, how can it be like, I wanted
Haircuts
to keep it a
mean
little
something,
weird
bro.
too.
I love it.
You know, I wanted it to be like, how can it be weird and different in a way that's not just like elves and dwarves and European armor and, you know, this. It's like, let's have fun with it, you know.
I mean, you definitely are, and yeah, you definitely do bring the newspaper aesthetic to it, the whole look, the panel work, everything. Yeah, bro, I
Thank you.
definitely love it. I definitely love it. Now, MK, this idea of the seeds, man, did this come like at the time with the egg that was discovered in an article or something? What's going on here?
Right.
Yeah, the idea behind that, it's kind of like insane. Like, was it a dream? What happened when this happened? Like, yeah, like
I think I was
did
actually
you smoke some good weed that day? What's going on?
I might have been a little carbon monoxide poison because I was in somebody's car that was kind of old, and it was really loud, and I was stuck in the back seat, so I just kind of was taking in the view as we were driving to a comic show, and I just sort of started thinking on you know, like,
She got into a dream state and saw eggs and shit. I mean, wishing on them, especially because they're so expensive nowadays. Like, it makes sense, you know.
Well, I mean, I did think up a lot of it during the pandemic when we were just running out of, you know, like lemons one week, and then potatoes just got decimated because of the heat in the summer, and all these weird things kept happening. So it wasn't actually the most fun ever done that time.
Bro, what happened? God forbid something really does goes crazy. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, we're done. We're done. How soon you think?
Yeah.
You think if there was another pandemic, but this is like really wild now. Talk maybe a zombie, a common alien invasion. You already saw how things ran out, right?
Yeah.
How fast do you think everything would run out? How long will we last?
Oh, like not very. It depends on what goes and what goes out. But if it's gas, nothing gets anywhere. Where does your food come from? California? Further? Like,
I think we're done in about a month.
Yeah,
like it's a month and we're done.
Yeah.
Man, my water got shut off, and I'm barely making it, man. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, he's about to start fires and go savage, bro. Did you get your bushy underwear? You can start walking around and grunting. Oh!
I'm wearing it right now. I've got the like Conan fur underwear. You know,
the evolving is already happening, folks. While we're on screen, holy shit, bro. But again, I love the look of the book, man, because again, it's that old school work, that the panel work too. It's eye candy. And who does the lettering?
John.
I do the lettering. I do all the design, all the layouts.
Grandpa, check you out, bro.
Yeah. Well,
Hey.
I mean, that comes from doing my own stuff. You know what I mean? Like, because if you're in control of it, you have, I know exactly how I want it. I make sure it fits. You know what I mean? Like, I've never been. I mean, obviously, I have having a colorist, and the colorist just has done an amazing job. I think, they're a lot younger, or Ali, she's a lot younger than both of us, but I think we were able to be like, we were like adventure. We were like, look at Tintin, look at Prince Valiant, look at these Sunday papers.
Nice.
So how do we keep it simple, and how do we keep those colors? So she developed like a limited color palette too, that would be only colors that you would see in those old comic strips and adventure comics and things from old print, print technology. So I think it's been a team effort, and
that's another thing. You're right. This does come off because again, I've had the pleasure of seeing some European books like Tintin and others, through Cinebook, and yeah, you do have that European aesthetic to the book. Maybe that's also why I'm attracted to it. It's different. It's something that again that I think that a lot of people need to check out. I mean, look at this. What's going on here, folks? Oh shit! I when I saw this, like, what the fuck? Son, gangster. Yeah, you don't know what's going on, folks. You want to know? You got to get that book, baby. The links are also in the show notes. Got that Amazon link, and also on the website ComicCrusaders.com. For this particular episode, links there and everything, and their socials, and show that love to them, of course, which I'm showing below. But man, look at this panel, man. How do you like drawing this water sea, man? How do you get that, bro? You did a great job there.
Thank you. I think that was a scene I was really happy with the inks, but then I think once Ali colored it, and I think this was actually the test page we used to get the coloring right, because we went through 4 or 5 different versions of this page, and it was like, it looked too, because the thing is I think having colored my last book that had like gradients and things, Ali, she really wanted to lean into that, but I was like, we need to color the way that the line work looks. The line work looks a little more lo-fi and less polished and organic. So we need to find coloring that fits that. So we saw a lot of versions of this, but yeah, but I think like it looked good in the line work, but Ali coloring it really, I think, brings it to life in a way that the line work can't stand on its own without Ali's coloring. It really needs to be a complete package, to be seen. So.
Yeah, Ali's done such an amazing job in this whole thing, and just I love Jonathan's art so much. It's hard to be like, well, it gets better when someone else works on it, but it really does with Ali's stuff. And there's even like when we were first talking about how to do it, we even kind of talked about like how old newspaper comics and comics printed in the 80s would like misregister and use the colors would shift a little bit depending on what paper it got put on. So like when you see reprints now, they have to be sort of, if they're not color corrected, they look really weird on like a shiny glossy paper.
Yes, they do.
And she was even able to like get that feeling in there, which amazes me that something that you read on your phone has a 80s newspaper vibe.
Yeah, but
you all really complement each other really well. That's for sure.
Thanks. And I think, just to your point, MK, it's like, it's not, the work's not meant to be seen as the line work. Like it's meant to be seen, and it's meant to be seen complete. You know what I mean? And like that complete is all of us working together. You know what I mean? And I think I think that's just important.
So talk to me here, like what's the length of the story over here? Like what's going on here? Like how many issues we getting for this particular like run of stories?
This one is 5, and then maybe more. We'll see. Maybe
we gotta get more, because I even just seeing some of the panel. I could see this even as a cartoon. Any thoughts on that? Like you guys trying to dive into doing something, across those lanes, maybe with something like this project?
Well, I think Amazon has first crack at everything because
Hey, Amazon, what y'all waiting for? This is something right up your alley, and we need this. We need some fun stuff like this.
yeah.
Original properties, please. Original IPs.
Yeah, it would be really fun to develop more. As a creative, everything is so up in the air. Everything now is like, well, try your first volume and then see how the sales are and how it goes. So, it's hard to get the word out on the very first issue of like what's coming up and everything. So we appreciate people checking it out. And that's how comics like live or die anymore is
On ComiXology Original, folks, you gotta go there for sure, folks. Check out the website as we gotta show the love. Now, let me ask you guys, with the current trends in the comic book industry, and specifically mentioning what Diamond is going through, right? But what was this mighty monopoly has now crashed, and there's even rumors about them possibly not even coming back at all. And big changes going on in the industry. I mean, how do you guys feel about that? Being in the industry and whatnot. Does it affect you in any way? Do you see that any positivity coming out of this? Do you see maybe indie getting hurt more? Like, what opinions do you have on this? I'll start with MK on this one.
like comics has been burnt like supposed to crash every year I've been alive, I'm pretty sure. Like I lived through the 90s.
Once a decade for sure, some shit happens.
It's always gonna be something different. It's gonna suck for a lot of people, and especially creatives who are going through a lot of uncertainty right now. It's rough. And I know it's gonna affect like what gets picked up, what gets printed. Maybe everything's just gonna be trade paperbacks like from next year on.
And it's crazy. I have a creative member on the team, a colleague that's been a long time creator, and he always said that. He goes, eventually, people just want to get trades. So we release trades every 6 months. So that's 6 months with the comics. So you have 6 months to work on your shit, and like, what I mean, put them out and just keep putting them out like that. That's what people want. Big old stories, and then so it's crazy how you say that. And then Dave Stradamus, his first name is Dave, so I'm gonna call it Dave Stradamus because he's been talking about this for years. So I guess he's been on the money. Maybe he manifested it. Blame Dave. How about you, John? What you think?
Well, I mean, in a way, Diamond Go. I mean, like we have so much, not just in comics, in everywhere. We have systems in place that don't really work. Like I think when COVID happened and everything shut down, we're like, oh wait, why is this even a thing? Like it's not working, it's not doing anything. And I think that's just another example of that. And so the hope is that when a system fails, that something more beautiful and more equitable can be yeah, but realistically, it's like it's going to be some bozo with a lot of money that's going to probably sweep in and mess it up. You know what I mean? Like, but I think like when something falls, there's an opportunity. You know what I mean? But I mean, this isn't just happening in comics. This is, I mean, I think that we're at a creative like inflection point where like TV, like if you're in television or animation, you know what I mean? Like your shows are being, like removed, you're being underpaid, like book, like I don't, like I make comics, but I don't traditionally work, like I work more in book publishing, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, than like comics publishing. So I'm not as familiar with like the direct market stuff, but I still am because it's still part of the business. But like, I mean, book publishing is going through hell right now. Imprints are closing, people are being laid off, acquisitions, they're canceling contracts, they're extending books because they over acquired, so now books aren't being released that were supposed to come out in a year or two are now being released like 4 years out or something, like this is happening everywhere. And so I think it's just tough because as a creative, you're like MK said, like how do you make a living? And people are like don't want to pay artists, right? They don't want to spend money on things, they don't want to pay artists that until you like, but what do you do all day? You sit in front of a TV and watch streaming all day. You play video games in your free time. You read comics. So like, I think we're at a point, and this is a bit of a tangent, but like people need to start supporting the things that they care about, because otherwise those things are going to go away. And like, if you want some like AI shoveled filth that has no heart to it, like, you know, that's what your future is looking like if you don't support the creators that make the books and stories that you love, you know.
Agree. Yeah, definitely heartless. And you know, yeah, it may look nice, but it doesn't have soul. And
But it doesn't look nice
I've
either,
seen the
you know.
examples, you know, and I could say, yeah, it does look cool, but like there's no story. There's something missing, and that human element is very important. There's, you know, AI still cannot capture emotion in any scale, at any part. You know, story. MK will tell you, the writer, you know, one of the biggest part of storytelling is that grabbing that emotion and being able to, you know, relay that on page like you did with this story. Because again, I fell in love with the characters. I had fun reading what was going on. I can't wait to see what's going on now. 5 issues, shit. All right, thank you. Hey, I'm looking forward to this wild adventure you guys are gonna be putting this on over here. Now, are you guys gonna be making appearances anywhere before we go? Any conventions, anything where people can meet you, shake your hand, you know, pick up a book or two?
I'll be at Emerald City next month, and so far I think that might be it for the year. But you know, things.
It is still early. It is still early. You know, true way. Once everybody sees how dope this book is, you're gonna be wanted everywhere. You and John.
You
So
know,
John,
it is tough. It is tough at being digital, because I think it's harder to make appearances and not have a book. You know, especially both of us coming up as zinesters. You know, we're so used to like, okay, I finished a comic, now I print it, now I staple it, now I can give it to you. And so like there's cool thing, like, you know, the digital release is cool in that, like, if you have a phone or a browser, you can access it. You don't have to go to a comic store. But then I think it does make going to conventions a little tougher, because you're like, hey, I'm doing this book and it's really cool. You can, but I don't have like people, you know, people at conventions want to get things from people at conventions. You know what I mean? So like trying to think, you know, I think we've been talking about like, what do we do? Do we make some prints? Do we make some postcards? Do we, you know, just trying to think of things that have that. But, you know, so it's been interesting having the digital release, because I think it's just different from I've never had an all digital release. I've always had a print version too, and so it's interesting kind of navigating that. And hopefully,
well, I'm
you
sure
know,
that's gonna get picked up, John, because you know, people appreciate stories like this. You know, and I've seen how ComiXology history goes. Sometimes the publisher says, "Wait a minute, we want this." So you know, maybe this will come out as a trade once there's a full series on ComiXology, which would be fantastic. So get this as a full story. Fuck yeah, some shelf porn, baby. I like having my shelf porn. Get my beautiful looking books up there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I dig it. I dig it. All right. So last words here. Going to MK again. Like, what type of words of advice would you give? You know, the kitties, them cats out there, just trying to do their thing and step into the industry like you have.
Oh man, I don't know if you can do it the same way I did. Just I think that's true of maybe everybody in comics, but you know, put your butt in the chair and keep doing the work, and eventually, you know, you get it out there to people who just love comic books and are making their own things and come up with you, and it's just, if it's a thing you love, you got to stick with it till it hits or it breaks your heart.
Oh man, ain't that the truth, man? That's life in general. Shit, yeah, that's deep right there for real, yo. To my man, Mr. Hill over here, and you know the king of the hill, man. All right, his name ain't Hank, right?
Same. I mean, I think the same thing. I think I would even say like, don't even do it trying to like break in. Like right now, I think the most punk rock thing you can do is create.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and tell your story. And so like, don't do it because you want a book deal. Do it because like we're going through like really hard time, like really fucked up times right now, and everybody's story needs to be heard. And so like, just like that's the most punk rock active defiance thing I think you can do, is to make something, whether that's a comic or you're making pottery, or like just make things, because that is the antidote to everything happening right now.
When you say making pottery, my mind, it shows my age, immediately goes to Ghost in that scene. Jesus Christ! Immediately my mind went there.
I think anybody, like, you know, I mean, if you can make some pottery and get some while you're at it, like, you know, go for it.
That's the most gangster shit for sure. Hey, man. Now I think we're gonna see what Jonathan Hills is gonna be giving classes on making pottery eventually in the future. So love it. All right, but you guys rock, man. I love the energy, and I see why you guys collaborate so well, especially with this book. Thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to check out the issue, and like, I'm really digging it, and I think everybody else will too. Again, the notes are below, but listen, let me show you this right now. Follow Jonathan's website at oneofthejohns.com. Right, that sounds almost religious right there. Which John are you? I see everybody pointing at each other, right? And then we got. You can follow him on Instagram and Blue Sky, also at One of the Johns. You can follow MK's website at MKRead. That's RWED. Yes, like Mr. Fantastic type to reads like that. You saw that F4 trailer? My gosh, that teaser. Jeez, that shit look great. I can't wait. All right, and you can also follow MK at Blue Sky at mkread.bsky.social. All right, show that love to independent comic creators like these folks. I mean, these guys, you see them. They already been changing the game. All right, so follow them. This book will not disappoint. It's ComiXology Originals, baby. I'm Al Mega, Jonathan Hill. It's MK Reed, Comic Crusaders. We appreciate each one of you guys that we watch, and thank you for the love. All right, hasta la próxima. You know what it is. Wepa!
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit ComicCrusaders.com and our extended podcast family over at UndercoverCapes.com. And also, make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.